Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You're now tuned to the show, and I'm your host, MJ, and we're going to take another trip down horror lane. So, guys, you guys probably can tell we're going to move further along in the classic horror movie episode series. We're going into episode 4, and I want to talk about a couple of films, okay, briefly. These two films I'm going to be discussing with you guys about in this episode. These are actually two very, very good films, and we're talking about good, solid horror films. In the classic era, these are actually two solid, very good films. The first film I want to talk about with you guys is Silent Night, Bloody Night, which was released in 1974. Once again, Silent Night, Bloody Night. It's pretty much about maniacs that have taken over an asylum, and they want bloody revenge for crimes that was committed in the dark, distant past. So that's pretty much what the film is about. Now, what I liked about the 1974 film Silent Night, Bloody Night was multiple things I liked, but the first thing I liked was the opening scene. I liked the opening scene, how they opened up. We saw the main protagonist where she was walking through the woods or the forest by herself as she was heading to the asylum. And then as we seen that, it was a slow shot of us seeing her, so we knew already it was gonna. The story of the movie was obviously going to have something majorly to do with the actress walking through the woods with the main protagonist, which of course we found out and discovered that she was the main protagonist. But I knew she was going to be probably the main character, the main protagonist, because how the film started with the opening scene. We saw her walking through the woods. And then what happened was I thought was strange because as she's walking through the scene, as she's walking and she's headed to the asylum, then we see where there's I guess you could call it the groundskeeper or the gatekeepers. He's inside of the asylum. And he's doing a little work or maintenance, but then all of a sudden the house catches on the asylum catches on fire, and then it's an asylum, but from the outside looking in, especially from the open scene, you would think, okay, wait, this is a house, not an asylum. But during that time and frame, it would look like appear to be a house, but it still could be an asylum. So obviously that was what it's used as asylum. So therefore it was called it will be named an asylum, even though the place looked like a house. But anyways, you saw it on fire, and then you saw the gatekeeper guy. He's running out of the place, and he's on fire, and then he burns up. So right there, the opening scene, okay, from the transition from the actress walking through the forest, the main character protagonist, and then from the gatekeeper of the house or the maintenance worker, he's coming out of the house on fire, and then just disintegrates. It already let you know that this was going to be something worth watching, and you knew that it was going to be some kind of crazy stuff going on. So right then and there, the first opening scene of Bloody Night, Silent Night, Bloody Night, it really caught me right there. So I already knew that I was going to like it. But as I said, as we got further along in the film, pretty much like as I said, you seen there were different guests coming to the house or to the asylum for the night or whatever, for whatever reason they was gathering up to do some type of investigation for some particular gathering. And what happened is, of course, that they started getting picked off. Now, how they started getting picked off was pretty much by these psychomaniacs, okay, or should I say patients, okay? These patients that basically, they were just on a rampage. They were killing all the guests that had appeared that day. And what happened was, it's like there was a story. We come to find out, like I said, there was a story behind why they were killing. They just wasn't killing people. There was a story behind that. And what happened is the reason why they were killing people is because that the things that were happening to them, we come to discover the things that had happened to them in the distant past, the dark secrets of that asylum, the dark secrets, what was happening to them is what resulted into the rage that these maniacs had built up in them, and they start releasing out, and they start just going on a bloody, horrific path. That's what happened in this film, and that's what it's about. It started off good, and it kept progressing. You've seen the kill shots. The kill shots was coming right away, back to back to back to back to back. So that's what I liked about this film overall in general. As I said, I loved it. And do I have anything negative? I don't really have nothing negative. Only thing I can say is it could have been I think they could have done just a tad bit better of implementing just a couple of decent cast members in there. They could have implemented a couple of decent cast members, but we do know, especially all of us that are major horror fans, and not even outside of horror fans, it's just film and television, it's just in period in general. We know that, okay, all films are not American films, okay? We have Canadian films, we have indie films, independent films, and then we have American films. So this is why sometimes when you see certain films, you can automatically kind of tell from the movie or the film as it's going whether or not it's an American film or a Canadian film or an indie film. And then that'll let you know also why you don't see a certain amount of cast or you don't see a strong enough cast inside of the films. But I still liked it overall. Silent Night, Bloody Night, it was a hell of a movie. It was very good, very decent. It definitely goes in my top 20, okay? But that's all I have for it. Like I said, it's a highly recommended watch. The 1974 film Silent Night, Bloody Night. I guarantee you, you will like it. It is good for a good horror night, especially if you're looking for some of that old solid horror films. Okay? So moving further along in the episode, the next film I want to talk to you guys about is another good film. Okay? So I guess you could say that in this episode, we're just basically, I chose to go pertaining specifically about or talk about all type of asylum type of or mental patient type of flicks or horror films. So the next film is called Don't Look in the Basement, okay? So the 1973 film Don't Look in the Basement also has to do with some type of asylum or mental thing going on. So what this one is basically pretty much is a young psychiatrist nurse gets to work at pretty much a lonesome asylum following a murder. Okay, now as I said, it's pretty much about a nurse that takes on a job. A nurse that takes on a job at an asylum. Okay, where a murder or death just happened. Now the same thing is about Silent Night, Bloody Night. I would say the same thing about Don't Look in the Basement, the 1973 film Don't Look in the Basement. I like how the opening scene as well. The opening scene, we got to see another kill shot. We got to see a death, a murder real quick, but it was different. Now, what was intriguing to me what this was about was, what was it? Camelia Carr playing Harriet, I believe. Yes, Camelia Carr playing Harriet. Now, what was so crazy about me is the obsession that she had with this baby doll. It was a baby doll, but she was treating it like a real baby. So you knew that this asylum, this place was housing some of the most messed up and mentally illest people that you could think of, because this woman, played by Harriet played by Camelia Carr, she had really believed and really thought that baby doll was her actual child, was her baby. And I thought it was just so crazy, like, wow, this woman really believes that this baby doll is actually a real baby, that's her baby. And in the opening scene, the kill shot, she kills one of the nurses there because she thinks that the nurse had took her baby, even though it wasn't even a real baby, it was a baby doll, but she thought that the nurse had took her. So what happened was when she went freaking out crazy, running through the damn asylum, and when she ran into the room where the nurse was, one of the nurses there, she seen the baby doll sitting on the little table thing, and then she automatically has assumed that the nurse had took her baby or did some stuff, and then she went to attacking the nurse, and she wound up killing the nurse. That's how the movie starts, the opening scenes of this film. And I was just the same thing, but it just that was so intriguing. I like the twist of that because it showed that sick and demeanor and just dark demeanor and that dark scenery of that dark vibe that you got, the sickness of what was going on and what was taking place. So you knew something heavily was taking place in this in this asylum, because how these people were so screwed up and messed up. And it wasn't even just the Harriet played by Camelia Carr had this crazy fetish with a fake baby that she thought was her real baby. A couple of these, some of these other patients was really like just crazy on some just major outrageous stuff. For example, also, like I said, you had a couple of other people in this movie, but you talk about Nurse Charlotte, which of course was played by Rosie Holtick, which you would say was the main character in this film, the main protagonist in this film. Basically, she was basically the young psychiatrist nurse that took the job at the asylum after Harriet, played by Camelia Carr, had killed one of the nurses on site in the beginning of the movie. So then that's when the Nurse Charlotte came into play, and she took on the job. And not too long after she took on the job, I mean, it was just so many things happening in this film. I mean, you had the scenery where, remember where the doctor, where he was talking to the male, the guy that was kind of a little off, and he was talking to him, he was teaching him how to chop wood with the axe. And then remember what happened was this is why it, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, this is why it goes to show that it's very important that you need to understand when you're dealing with mental patients, you know, in any asylum or any place where they hold mental patients, you have to make sure that you don't turn your back, and you have to be very on your P's and Q's and cautious of these people, because the guy, he was talking to the doctor, and he was teaching him, showing him how to cut wood. But once the head nurse came and just what was her name? Jane St. Clair. Jane St. Clair. Yes, I believe the head nurse, Jane St. Clair, that was played by Jesse Lee Fulton, I believe. Yes. No. I'm sorry. Dr. Geraldine. Dr. Geraldine played by Annabelle Weinick. So when Dr. Geraldine had came up walking with the new nurse, and she was trying to introduce the new nurse Charlotte to the head doctor on site. That's when, once he took his eyes off of the guy for a second, one of the mental patients, and started talking to Dr. Geraldine and Nurse Charlotte, that's when you seen that the patient, he swung the axe and hit the doctor, in the male doctor, in the back, and then he just laid out flat on the ground. And that right there was just like, man, this place definitely has to be housing some of the most sickest people, okay? But what I pretty much liked about the film, as I said, it really gave us that dark side, and it really showed us how really cautious we should be, and how dangerous it can be to actually take on a job or a position at an asylum when you're dealing with mental patients. But also it shows us the dark side of what the patients go through themselves in these mental hospitals, okay? And especially when you have some of these mental hospitals that are abusing these mental patients, these people that are sick in the mind in these hospitals that are abusing them, okay? Because we come to find out that Dr. Geraldine, she was on some major, like she was kind of messed up and twisted herself a little bit, and she was obviously had some, because all these patients were basically, they loved her. They loved her like she was, especially Sam, okay? Sam, played by William McGee. Sam, he was another main key character that was throughout the whole film. William McGee was playing the character Sam, was a melanated person. But Sam, he had a real thing for Dr. Geraldine, okay? It's like he loved, it's almost like he looked at her as his mother, even though he was a patient as well. But it's like I said, it's almost like she relied on Sam to help her out with certain things, okay? But it's like, you could tell that Sam was very close to Dr. Geraldine, almost like if she was a mother figure to him. But the other patients, all the ones that I explained to you about, like for instance, the ones that hit the doctor with the axe, the one that killed the nurse at the beginning, killed the nurse, basically, what was her, Camellia Carr, when playing Harriet, when all them together, they killed Dr. Geraldine towards the end of the movie. So you can tell, obviously, that Dr. Geraldine was responsible for whatever was going on, the dark secrets that was going on at this hospital. And like I said, it was a real crazy, twisted movie, and very gruesome, and it was very bloody, but it was hardcore though. It kicked ass. I liked it. Very good. So that's pretty much what I liked about Don't Look in the Basement. As I said, it was another film that pertained around like the asylum, or when you're dealing with very ill mental patients. So that was the two films that I highly recommend, and are actually two good films. Number one, Silent Night, Bloody Night, released in 1974. And number two, Don't Look in the Basement, released in 1973. Those are very two good horror classic films that I highly recommend that you guys watch them. I guarantee you that after watching these two films, you will like them, and you will make the connection to see why I actually chose to do these two movies together in an episode, because they both pertain to the same specific topic, and we're talking about pertaining to an asylum. Okay, so this was more like a horror flick that pertained to like the sane asylum, or mental patients, like that, or just some crazy outgoing stuff. But I highly recommend you guys watch them. You won't regret it. They're two good classic horror films. So that's all I have for you guys. I want to thank you guys once again for tuning into another episode, and following another episode, and follow along for every episode of the new series, my horror classic series. Okay, so just the beginning, we're going to keep going. So as again, I want to give you guys much appreciation, much love and respect to you guys for supporting me. So until next time, you guys already know what it is. Peace.